Welcome to James Hates Everything and another one quarter game review. Last week, we took a look at a clone or successor of Contra and talked a lot about action heroes and what they meant to movies and video games. Well, today we're sticking with that theme and we're going to go back to Konami, the original publisher of Contra, and look at a spiritual successor to that wildly successful game. That's right. Today we're jumping in to Devastators, a sort of 3D perspective using sprite scaling shooter featuring, that's right, a pair of action heroes who are off to defend the United States from a Middle East dictator. So let's go quarter up and take a look at this game. All right, as this game boots up, of course, we're taking a look at the Konami run and gun Devastators, a sort of spiritual successor to Contra. Here we are at the attract mode with our pair of heroes paratrooping in to the Middle East. And very interesting. It obviously harkens back to those stages from Contra at the base level where you're moving forward, but this is a constantly, rather it only moves forward when you're pushing up, it looks like. Very, very much G.I. Joe arcade vibes. But less control over the direction. Doesn't look like the direction there's any crosshairs or anything. So let's do what we do. Let's quarter up, take a look. 2-player simultaneous, obvious. All right, here we go. Stage 1, blow up enemies' ammunition base. Like the little sound effect of dropping in. Oh yeah, the gunshots sound great. Got ourselves a couple of missiles, I guess. Already dead. Man, how do I take out that tower? This is ridiculous. Trying. Yelling at me to move it up. Okay, barrels. We got some sandbags. There's a missile. I guess you got to have a lock or something to get that missile to show up. Where's that case? Trying to move it up. Only got 41 seconds. Running out of time. Oh, so close to the end. Oh, devastating to get that close to the end of the first stage. So frustrating. All right, well, that was Konami's Devastators. Very interesting. So let's talk about it. As always, on one quarter game reviews here, we grade these games on 4 criteria and then give it an overall score. So first, we do graphics, we move into audio, music, then gameplay, and of course, story. And as always, we grade on a scale of 1 to 5. So let's first talk about graphics. Here we see a game using sprite scaling, which was to give players that 3D effect before 3D was really a thing. And it was fairly common, made famous by things like Space Harrier. Of course, you had the G.I. Joe arcade, which we've mentioned. We've had those kind of middle levels of Contra when you were in the bases. But in this instance, it's really not done that great. The graphics are a little too busy. So as they're further away, they're really hard to tell what they are because they try to put too much textures into them. I think the players themselves, their sprites lack any kind of character when they're just not unique in design. They just like any kind of paramilitary mercenary kind of look. It's clear from the title screen they're going for that kind of Rambo image, but it doesn't really translate. And so I'm not a fan of the graphics. I think this is a 2.2, 2.3 at most on the graphics. Now let's talk about the sound effects. This is actually a bright spot on this game for me. The real sampled gun effects, it sounds like, the drop-ins, the explosions, the sound effects are really good. The music is kind of just mid as you play, but you get those other things like the alerts as you're getting closer. You get the person yelling at you to move forward if you're not moving fast enough. All of those things I think really assist in gameplay. So the music, I'm pleasant, or the overall sound effects, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think they're really good sound effects, and they actually add a lot to the game. So um, that I think outweighs the kind of just so music. But great job on the sound effects. So now let's talk about gameplay. Again, it's a little frustrating. You're definitely being rushed by that time clock, and so that forces you to kind of be reckless. And although the enemies aren't really littering you with bullets at this early stages of the game, the pressure to move forward, I think, again, lends into that recklessness. Which, if you even touch an enemy, you die, and it's confusing about when you get your rockets versus the grenades. Like, why can't the grenades take out the towers? That's really annoying. You essentially have to wait until you have the crosshairs in order to shoot the rockets. It's just too hard to move between the two secondary munitions, and so I'm not a big fan there. Sprite scaling, I enjoy sprite scaling games. They're not my favorite, but I do think they have some pretty fun aspects to them. In this one, again, referring back to my comments on the graphics, they're too busy. It's hard to tell what things look like from a distance because there's too much effort to put in for textures. And I think a more cartoony style works better in sprite scaling so you can see what things are from further out. So, on gameplay, it's not horrible, it's not great. I'm going to have to go with 2.4. It's honestly just it's just that. It's just a 2.4 for me. Story, I mean, what do you want? It's pretty clear, right? You are some mercenaries or American special forces. You've been dropped into the Middle East to take out a terrorist or a dictator. Pretty par for the course of the time period, right? We're talking late 80s, 1988, when things like Rambo 3 and Rambo 2 and all of these are at the height of what's going on again in the Cold War, and thing deals with hostage situations in the Middle East. So terrorism was obviously a big part of that era. And so story is pretty clear cut. And so from that standpoint, I think it's nothing special. It's just your typical Delta Force type story. So we're gonna go 2.6 on that. So let's talk overall gameplay or overall score on this. I think, again, the graphics not great, the gameplay just so. It's improved certainly by the sound effects. The story, again, just your typical action hero type story. So overall, I can't go too far on this. I think it's a 2.6. It's something that set to free play, I would probably want to continue playing just to see how the missions continue, what boss battles look like. But if I'm being asked to put quarters in this, I'm moving on. I'm going to the next game. This one is not worth spending my hard-earned money on. So what do you think? Have you played Devastators? Do you enjoy this game? Do you think it's worth putting a quarter into? Let me know in the chat below. And as always, you made it to the end, so you might as well smash the like button because it really does help the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell for notification, help share the channel. It does help us grow here, and we really appreciate that. And until next time, have fun.